Hello everyone, I'm Ray. I'm an artist from China. Today I will show you a process about an illustration I've made recently. I hope this tutorial can help you. I use Photoshop to do the job. The brushes I used in this process can be downloaded as an attachment to the tutorial. You can load it to Photoshop as a tool preset. In the sketch stage, I start with the 2B pencil. This brush can draw the texture of a real pencil on the paper very well. Face is always the visual focus in a character illustration. So firstly, I will define the position and the proportion of the face and the general orientation. Try to stay relaxed when you do the sketch. I usually set the opacity of the brush about 20% in this stage. Firstly, determine the composition in the draft, then the general pose of the characters and the perspective of the whole scene. Add some small props to make the picture fuller. The inspiration comes from a dessert shop where I visited a few days ago. So there will be some things in the background that are common in a dessert store. After the general layout has been determined, I'll cut the canvas to reset the size of the final image. I like to create a new window for the picture when I'm drawing. You can find this function in the Photoshop window menu, arrange new window for something. Then drag and drop the new window out and shrink it. This technique is very convenient. I can observe the whole picture in real time. Small window is used to observe the whole picture effect. That large window is used to draw the details. This function is similar to the navigator, but this method has a better effect on anti-aliasing, and it can adjust the window size more flexibly. Now I'm going to refine the sketch. I will set the brush opacity between 40% and 80%. In this step, mainly draw the expression and accurate posture. The outline of face is very important when we do the face drawing, and we should carefully about the proportion. When drawing the hair, we should pay attention to the growing point and the growing direction of the hair. Refine the eyes and lips. I often use the selection and move tools to adjust the structure when I draw a line draft. It is much faster than erasing everything and redrawing them. The position of the ears will indicate the perspective of the character's face, so it is very important. The girl's head is slightly down, so put her ears slightly up. Give her a pair of glasses. I found I really like the girl with glasses recently. Then put the girl's hair back behind her ears. I really love drawing characters. When designing these little details for the characters, I can feel that she becomes alive in my mind. I can put her on the glasses with my hand, comb her hair, say something make her laugh or make her angry. I will always think about these daydream things in my head when do the painting. So I think the process of painting characters are very fascinating to me. I really enjoy it. Now, draw the character's neck and body. I often use the liquify filter when drawing characters. You can find it here. Check the Show Backdrop option and set the Use option to Background. Set the Mode to Behind, Opacity 100%, and check the Preview option. Then use the Forward Warp tool to adjust the proportion of our character. The liquify filter is very convenient when we adjust the proportion. Balance is very important when we're designing the composition. Arrange the details of the image carefully, not too much or too less. Make the structure of the whole picture keep comfortable. Before I do the drawing part, I also found some references about the dessert shop. They can help us to define the detail of the image. Now add some details to the background, such as a table and a microwave machine maybe, and some paintings on the wall. And maybe add a person behind the girl. It can give the image more sense of space. Add some foreground to the bottom right of the picture. I will draw something like a tray here in the future. Another trick in drawing is to flip the canvas. You can find this command in Photoshop's image menu, image rotation, flip canvas horizontal. This function can help us check the problems of perspective, especially when we draw in the face. It is very practical. The painting of the feature is very subtle. A difference of 1 or 2 pixels in position and proportion will cause uncomfortable feelings. Add some lines to the table to give it a sense of space. And then I cut the canvas and resize the image to 200%. It will provide more resolution for better rendering. I draw some props that often appear in a dessert shop, such as teapot, macarons, and teacups, as well as a mobile phone and some napkins behind the character. There are some spoons and other utensils in the bucket at the far end of the table. Then I separate the character into a new layer. I use the lasso tool to select the character. Cut and paste, and move it to the right position. Rename the layer. The character is the most important part when I do the painting. Some of the sketch lines will be remained in the final image. So, I will spend more time to refine the character's face during the stage of sketches. My painting style is somewhat close to Japanese comics. The proportion of the characters is not completely realistic. I'm trying to make the girl as cute as possible. The completion of a character illustration is often directly related to the quality of facial painting. So, I will try to make sure that the face is drawn more delicately than anywhere else at any time during the drawing process. In addition, the hand is actually also a visual focus of the picture. Because the current action of the girl, we can't see the hand, so I can be a little lazy in this picture. Draw the trend of the hair. And some of these lines will become dark areas, will remain on the image later, which can stabilize the tone. Use the liquify to adjust the line slightly. Draw the outline of the face. The rhythm of the outline has a great influence on the whole picture, so be careful when you design it. In this step, I will add some shadows with lines to define the direction of the light. Drawing the ear, I personally think some hairstyle like this, with ears and hair on the temples, is very cute. The flow of the hair should be flexible. Try to feel the weight of the hair and draw the movement hanging on the shoulder. Some painter they draw hair's lack of weight and looks very fake. I want her to wear a more neutral shirt. She's a girl who wears glasses, looks like a teenage student, so she doesn't wear clothes that are very sexy and tempting. Draw the buttons on the clothes. There will be some stripes on the shirt. Use the liquify tool again. Adjust the outline. And flip the image. Then fix the proportion. I will adjust the face over and over again during the entire painting process. Starting from here, I will color the sketch. When painting the color, firstly, I fill the background color in the bottom layer. Here I filled in the layer with the gray. You can use any color. Then use the hue saturation tool. The shortcut key is Ctrl+U. Or you can find this command under the Image Adjustment menu. Check the Colorize option and adjust the 3 bars to find the color you want. I used a cold green for this image. After that, create a new layer. Select the color of skin for our character and draw the entire outline. In this stage, I mainly use two brushes, Simple Box and Airbrush. Simple Box can provide some texture and a hard edge. Airbrush offers a rich color transition. In this process, you can also use the selection and magic wand to speed up the color filling. This step is to fill the entire part of the character. Then create a new layer again and set the new layer as a clipping mask by right-clicking on the layer and select Create Clipping Mask command. Or you can also hold down the Alt key and click on the position between the two layers. In this way, the new layer will not draw the color out of the character. And set the line layer to a clipping mask layer too. Use a new layer to draw the hair. In this process, you don't have to think about light and shadows as long as you draw the diffuse color. You just need to pay attention to coordinate with the green background when choosing colors. Draw the shirt and lips in the same way. We can use the color balance tool to keep the balance between the character part and the background. The shortcut key for this function is Ctrl+B. Then deal with the background. The material of the table is wood. With the selection tool, we can draw the table quickly. In this kind of illustration, the function of the background is to set off the roll. I don't want it to distract attention when people look at this image, so I will not use too many colors in the background. Make it simple. Paint out the props on the table. I chose a white color that's similar to the girl's shirt. There are several macarons in the foreground cup. I used a vivid green color. Some high saturation colors near the character can be a visual guide to attract attention. I used the green color similar to macarons to paint the tablecloth behind the character. When painting colors, try not to make the color appear in isolation. This is a small skill to ensure the color harmony. Add more green objects and let the macaron's color blend into the entire picture. Here I duplicated the table to a new layer so that we can paint the detail on it easier after. Then duplicated the background layer and blurred it using the Gaussian blur tool under the Filter Blur menu. This skill will help us to paint the foreground object with a clean background. And in the meantime, we can also see the color in the background, so that can help us to paint the color correctly. After that, let us continue to paint the character. First, deal with the skin color. Create a new layer and set the layer mode to multiply. Choose a very bright pink with a low saturation to paint. I use the airbrush to do the job. There are many subtle color changes on the skin of the face, such as the nose and the chin and ears will be more red, the lips will be more red too, and the palm should be a bit red. And because there are many capillaries around the eyes, makes it looks a little blue and purple. And there are some orange colors in the other part of the skin. This layer can enrich the subtle changes in color. Add some color changes to the clothes too. I use the smudge tool when dealing with the color transitions. The normal smudge tool preset is very difficult to use in Photoshop. So, in the tool presets provided in this tutorial, there are several useful smudge tool presets. You should try them. Then create a new multiply layer named AO. The full name of AO is Ambient Occlusion, which means the area that is difficult to illuminate when the light is diffusely reflected. This layer of shadows makes our image more solid. In this picture, the AO area is mainly distributed under the neck, around the glasses, between the ears, and the palm and the cheeks, and the folds under the collar, the sleeves, and on the body. Create a new curve adjustment layer. You can find it in the layer menu, new adjustment layer, curves. Set it as a clipping mask. This layer is used to draw the light for the girl. Move the point on the left bottom up so that the entire character will be brighter. Then adjust the value of the RGB channels separately. Move the left control point of the blue channel up. Make the color have more blue light. Then adjust the red channel and move the point on the left up to make the color warmer. Eventually, the entire color will be bright blue, as the light outside the window. Then, set the color of the mask to black. You can click the mask and press Ctrl+I. Now you can choose a white color and draw the light with the brush. Using adjustment layers to draw light is my personal trick. It is very convenient and flexible, can be modified at any time. We can paint out a harmonious and unified light for different objects with this layer. Be careful when drawing the light on the face. Not all light shapes looks good. When painting light, we should concentrate on the shape of the light and shadow. The rhythm of the bright shapes is very important. I like the effect of side backlighting. With this kind of light, we can control the bright color in a small range, so that the focus of the picture can be highlighted by light. Careful about these shapes. Our eyes are particularly sensitive to the brighter areas. The detail in these shapes can greatly improve the completion of the picture. Duplicate the light layer and move it below the character layers to draw the light on the table and background. I set the illuminated area around the character, so that can become some visual guides. The principle of a layer mask is that the white part is displayed and the black part is not, and the gray part will become blend areas. So we can use a low transparency brush to draw the transition part of the light. There is a window on the left side of the canvas. The light outside the window gives the character and the props in the scene a very bright outline. This window makes the light more reasonable. In the same way, add some spots on the background. Adjust the light on the character and make it a little warmer. Then, copy this layer and replace the background light layer to keep the light of character and background uniform. And we need to copy the old mask to the new layer. Firstly, fill the new mask with white color. You can hold Ctrl key and left-click the old mask to select the white color. Then left-click the new mask and press Ctrl I, and then press Ctrl D to deselect, and press Ctrl I again. Now you can delete the old one. Then we copy this adjustment layer, slightly weaken the light intensity in the curve. Add some green and make the color similar to the background. This layer works as a reflection light from right direction, simulating the diffuse light in the room. After the second light source is added, it can make the picture more detailed. Create a multiply layer to darken the whole character. Make the light on the character more visible. Merge the line sketch and AO layers together. They will become the main shadows of the picture. Zoom in the canvas and rotate the view a little bit and make the details of the face cleaner. Create a multiply layer again to enhance the shadow details. The shadow of the face is mainly distributed on the forehead below the hair, under the nose, under the brow bone, below the lower lip, and under the chin. Slightly increase the saturation and red of the layers to make the skin look more rosy. The advantage of coloring the image with a stack of multiply layers is that the colors will finally mix together without damaging the colors on the layer below, so we can get very subtle color changes in the image. Strengthen the color of the eyebrows. We should pay attention to the growing direction of the eyebrows when painting them. Gradually erase the original lines to make the picture clean. Only remain the shadow parts of this layer. Remember that flipping the canvas horizontally is a good skill. Then create a new layer to draw the glasses. The transparent part and the frame of the glasses will have a strong reflection, so we don't have to paint the color too dark. Make the lines broken, which can simulate the effect of light reflection and refraction. When I have determined the basic color and light, I will merge these layers. Firstly, deal with the diffuse color layers. With the connection of the clipping mask, the layers cannot be merged directly. We need to disconnect the clipping mask first by hold Alt key and left click the area between two layers. Then merge them and recreate the clipping mask. When you are proficient, you will operate this very quickly, and trust me, it is very helpful. After merging these layers, start to paint the diffuse color layer. The main thing is to draw more detailed edge changes, such as the hair blown by the wind and the messy hairlines. Rich edge changes can also improve the completion of the image. Erase some parts of the hair that the color of the background reveal can also make the character and the environment blend together. Add some 1 or 2 pixel lines as the details can make the hair look more refined. Let the hair a little messy can increase the lazy temperament of our girls. Then deal with the AO layer. Make the shadows more reasonable. Create a new layer and set the layer mode to screen. This layer is used to draw highlight. The screen layer has an opposite function to the multiply layer. All the colors we painted will brighten the whole picture. Use this layer to draw the highlight of eyes. Use a bigger brush to draw a large shadow. Try to refine this AO shadow. Gradually merge the layers. My habit is every time I want to add new details, I create a new layer or duplicate the old one. and then paint until I am satisfied with the new details, and they don't need to be modified. Then I will merge it with the old layer, painting the details layer by layer. When dealing with the details on the face, pay attention to the edges of the shadow. Some of them are very soft and some are very hard. The more obvious the structure turning, the sharper the edge of the shadow. For example, the nose is round and smooth, so the shadow on the side of the nose are soft. But the shadow below the nose and between the nose and the cheek, they have a more harder edge. The shadow on the cheeks, because of the fat on the girl's face, so this area has a very smooth color transition. Add some shadow to the upper lip. Then add some highlights on the nose and the lips. Add some to the lower eyelid to make the eyes look cleaner and the characters look softer. Pay attention to the overall feeling when painting. Carefully check if this part of the painting can blend into the picture well and will not cause unnatural feeling. And sometimes the details will make the picture rigid, so we should always stay alert. The current layer makes the picture look richer and more interesting, or just make the picture boring. It's a good habit to look at the overall effect in the small window on the left side from time to time. Give the hair on the forehead more details and make the transition between hair and skin more natural. When painting the edges of the hair, don't draw too much. Remain the hair in several big groups. Use the liquify filter again to make the eyes bigger. When doing this, you can use the bloat tool. Slightly darken the part of clothes which will have less light. Make the volume more obvious. Add more details to the hair. In this stage painting, I like to try not to stay in a part for a long time. Keep painting here for a while and then jump to painting there. It will keep the whole picture relaxed, not too much detail. Pay more attention to the overall relationships with shapes, colors, and light. Make the groups of forehead hair have better rhythm and the shadows on the skin between the gaps. Now the portrait parts are still rough. I use the airbrush to clean up the edges of the facial features. Slowly remove the unclean lines on the face. Make the structure more reasonable, make the color transition more natural, and remember, when making color transitions, be careful not to draw the structures too flat. The structural changes should be remained. Slightly paint on the nose. The girl's nose is slightly ruddy, which will increase the feeling of softer character. In the same way, add some flush and little red eyeshadows. In this step, carefully draw the outline of the facial features, consider the direction of the light, and draw the relationship of the tones accurately. When painting the lips, try not to draw the lip lines too hard. Let the color naturally faint. The lips will look softer. Use the smudge tool and the airbrush to draw the color transition. Until now, the dark color on the face is basically the color left by the line draft. So the color will be less saturated and not very natural. We should repaint these places and cover them with more correct colors. When you paint the face, you can also find some clear photos as references to remind you of how many details there will be in the face. Add some orange colors to the shadow between the cheek and the palm. Flip the canvas again. Refine the hand. As we said, the hand is a very important part of a character illustration. I usually take a photo of my hand at the same angle as a reference, which can help me to depict the details and the light and shadow accurately. Use the liquify again. Refine the proportion and the outline. The advantage of the airbrush is easy to make a very smooth transition. But there is also a defect. It is not easy to observe the shape of the color boundary. The truth is that even a very soft transition, the shape of the color boundary plays a very important role when we do the painting. So be careful to use your airbrush and try to use it along the structure. Another advantage of the airbrush is that you can reduce brush size when you draw in small details. So you can also paint out some very sharp edges. Actually, you can paint the whole image with one airbrush only, if you want. Resize the glasses. Draw out the highlight. Draw out a nose pad. The glasses is a very interesting prop that can increase the details of the face, but be careful not to paint too much, otherwise it will distract the visual focus. Sometimes I will use the selection and feather command to adjust the face features. This method has better edge control than liquify filter and does not cause distortion. First, create a selection with the lasso tool, then right-click on the selection, find the feather and enter 5 pixels. Then press Ctrl J to make a copy of this selection, and press Ctrl T to activate the free transform mode and move a few pixels down. After that, select the highlight layer above, select the area of eyes highlight, and press Ctrl-Shift-T to repeat the previous free transform. which allows the highlight layer position match our adjusted eyes precisely. Clean the edges. As we did in the face, gradually clean the dirty lines and edges. Strengthen the volume of the hand and arm. Pay attention to these little structures, especially the part near the face. Strengthen the lower eyelid. Furrows under the eyes will make the girl look more amiable. Adjust the shadow shape of the neck and slightly brighten it. Clean the edges of the ears. Soften these edges. Now let's deal with the shirt. There are still a lot of dirty lines left on the clothes. Slowly clean them when paint the details. Paint the clothes behind the hair first, and then draw the hair on it, which will make this part full of details. We can paint the clothes simply, because I will draw a layer of texture on it later. Relative to the character, the completion of the table is very low, so let's paint it for a while. First, draw the plate. Create a circular selection. Then right-click on Transform Selection. Hold down Ctrl key to adjust the surrounding control points and create a circle with perspective. Then create a new layer and fill it with a brush. Then draw the light and the shadow according to the direction of the light and the highlight. Duplicate the previous layer as the edge of the cup and transform it. Create a new layer below and draw the body. And handle of the cup. Create a new layer again to draw the shadow on the plate. Zoom in and paint more. The cup is at the forefront of the picture, so make sure give it enough details. Paint out the reflection of the window. Blend the colors. Refine the edges with the Circle Selection tool. Once you've done a selection, you can press Ctrl H to hide the selection. If you want to show it again, press Ctrl H again and paint out the AO shadow between the cup and the plate. Create a new selection, use the Free Transform tool to adjust the perspective, and draw the liquid in the cup. It should be some black tea. Then create a new layer and draw a spoon with the Selection tool. The spoon is made by some silver metal, so the color should be similar to the surrounding environment. Draw the reflections and highlights of the body, the underwater part, and refraction. And don't forget the shadow. Draw the reflection on the liquid. Adjust the face again. This time, I make her front hair a bit longer and change the character's temperament a little. Use the Liquify tool again, adjust the face proportion. Move the nose and the mouth a little upper. And shrink the shoulder a little. Strengthen the volume between the collar and the neck. And then come to the clothes part again. This time, let us finish the clothes. First, deal with the collar. Let's clean the edges. Then the chest. The details in this area are mainly in the folds of the underarms. The right sleeve of the girl is in front of the body, so we should draw a little more carefully here. First, draw the trend of the pleats. The twisting of the front arm should be shown on the pleats. And then the folds near the elbow joint should be drawn. And the wrinkle in the back a little. Then use a deeper color to draw the shadow between the folds. Add more details near the chest. When drawing wrinkles, we should consider about the overall look. Don't fall into the trap of drawing details. Think more about the rhythm of shapes and how to arrange them. Don't draw too much details. Let's take more time to arrange the shapes here to make them look better. Gradually clean up the brush strokes and make the edges more solid. Be patient when painting these details. The more patience you pay, the cleaner the picture will be. Maybe sometimes we don't need the picture to be clean, but I think in this part we should do some hard work. Okay, then let's refine the buttons. Draw the shadows and the highlight and the wrinkles around it. Draw another one and another one in the same way, and another one. Add some lines next to the buttons. Create a new multiply layer to draw the stripes on the shirt. Adjust the size of the brush and draw it one by one. In fact, you can load some texture pictures and set to an overlay layer to do the same thing. But I prefer the hand-painted randomness. So I still need to be patient, but actually it will not take a long time. I finished this less than 10 minutes. Another benefit of hand painting is that we can draw the texture along the structure changes of the clothes. So the textures can give us a little more volume of the wrinkles. Let's speed up a little to finish this. Adjust the layer mode and the transparency slightly to make the texture looks better. We can add more details of the lifted arm and cuff. Refine the structure and the shadows. Add some AO shadows between the arm and the clothes. Use the selection tool in the painting process can greatly improve the efficiency and can give us very clean edges. Continue to clean up the outline of the clothes. Now let's create a mask for the texture layer we just did. First, select the clothes layer, then use the color range tool. You can find it in the select menu. Then click on the bright area on the clothes, adjust the fuzziness. Press OK, then we have created a selection of bright colors for the clothes. Then select the texture layer and click the Add Layer Mask button on Layer panel. In this way, the texture can be concentrated on the bright part of the clothes, which is closer to the real-life effect, and make the texture looks more natural. Then I copied the character layer and increased the contrast with the curve tool, and then used the layer mask to strengthen the dark part of the clothes. Above the texture layer, create a new multiply layer and reinforce the dark part of the garment, especially the AO areas. Enhance the edges of the color. Use the hue saturation tool to adjust the color of the texture. Make it blend better into the tone of the entire painting. Paint some details on the light layer. First, draw the groups of hair more delicately. Paint some smaller shapes of the light and shadows. Carefully when handle this layer, the highlight part and the boundaries between light and shadow are the most sensitive parts for our eyes. Therefore, if you can paint here well, it will greatly enhance the overall picture. On the contrary, if this place is not handled well, it will seriously affect the final result. Add some light on the glasses, or maybe add some on the nose. Carefully deal with these light shapes. Add some light on her back shoulder, which can help us separate the hand and the body. Also, add some light on the right arm. Then I warmed up the color of the light. The dark part of the whole scene is colder, so let us make the light layer warmer and increase the contrast between cold and warm. Strengthen the details on the face again. Create a new multiply layer and paint more colors in the shadows. Add a screen layer to paint the highlights. Then merge these layers. Refine the eyelid and the eyelash. And the face outline. Add more hairs. Strengthen the light a little. Adjust the position of the glasses. Pay attention on the small window on the left. Ensure the overall effect when do the painting. Organize the layers. Merge the layers that do not need to be modified again. The shadows on the sleeves of the clothes are a bit blunt. Let's redraw them. Then strengthen the shape of the chest. Add some details to the chest. One of the secrets of keeping high efficiency when dealing with the details is not to paint one place all the time. Keep changing the things to paint can keep our brain excited. Create a new screen layer. Draw the highlights on the hair and give the hair some smooth, supple feel. Create a new multiply layer to enhance the hair shadow. Return to the reflective light layer we done before. and refine the light and shadow relationship. Slightly enhance the effect of the reflection, make the light more clearly. Blend the color, soften the edges, and increase the reflection under the brow bone. Do the same thing at the lips. And on the sleeves, hair, and glasses. Then create a new normal layer to draw the highlighted hair as a supplementary details. Although the normal layer is inconvenient to modify, it can draw the details directly, so I usually add a normal layer at the top to enhance the final details. In the main light layer, add more shadows to make the details richer. Return to the normal layer to add more highlighted hair. Add some reflection on the glasses. And more scattered hair. Add an outglow layer style for the light layer. Adjust the glow color to be super warm, and then adjust the size and other values to give the layer a glow. This can show the light scattering when the light illuminated on the object surface. Let's finish the props on the table. Draw a macaron with lasso selection. Draw the top and the bottom surfaces separately. Add some highlights. Then copy one macaron to the back and resize it. Draw the shadows. Then draw the third one. Draw out the shadow of the plate on the table. Create a new layer to draw a few nutshells and pistachios. Remember to use the lasso tool, which can give us very clean edges. Paint out the little shadows. Draw the nut ball in the same way as the teacup we did before. First, create a round selection with perspective. Then draw the body and the inside. The bowl is made by wood, so paint material softer. Use the selection to draw the pistachio inside. Using layers and selections flexibly can draw very complex structures in a very short time. First create the overall shapes, then draw the details inside. Wipe the unnecessary part. Add some dark color to make the tone more solid. Add some textures to the bowl with the wood texture brush. Add these details with multiply and screen layers just as we did before. Paint out the shadows on the table. Start to draw the table. First, create a new layer. Draw out the templates of the table with no perspective. Use a texture brush to paint out the basic texture. Draw a gap between the templates. Then duplicate the layers several times and merge them. Then add some random features of each board to make them look more natural. Adjust the color and contrast. Then create a new multiply layer again and add some color changes to the board as we did in the face before. Then use the wood texture brush to add more textures in a new normal layer. Add some dark details again and add some cracks. Then merge the layers. Right-click on the layer and select Convert to Smart Object. Smart objects can be modified repeatedly while use free transform, which is very convenient to adjust the perspective. Move the layer under the plate layer, use free transform tool, hold down Control key to move the control point, and let the perspective of the table match the entire scene. We can use the ruler help us to create a guideline as the vanishing line of the picture. The Short key is Ctrl R. Then drag a line on the picture from top of the window. When we've done this, set this layer mode to multiply. We will use it as a texture layer. Use the curve tool, adjust the color of the table layer. And then hold Control key and left click the layer to create a selection. And select the background layer. Press Ctrl J to copy background layer of the table. Draw the shadows of the girl on the table. Use the lasso tool and Ctrl J to copy the sketches of the other items we painted on the background layer before, and put them on the new table. Then continue to refine these props on the table. Add more green color to the nut bowl. The color of the macaron is a bit jumping, so add a little more yellow to make it similar to the pistachio. Use the color balance tool to give it more yellow. Make it brighter and enhance the highlight a little. Refine the edges of the table. Wipe off the light that was drawn out of the edges. Then create a mask for the character layers group and fill the part that is blocked by the table with black color. The lifted arm with white color. Draw the tray under the plate. Paint it with a gray-green color so that this layer will become a color transition between the macaron and the table. Draw the shadows and highlights. Wipe the unnecessary light. The tray is a little empty. Draw some paper napkin on it. Use the selection tool and with the color similar to the cup, but a little warmer. And maybe there is some text on the napkin. I want to sign my name here. Give it some thickness. Draw the shadow of the tree on the table and add some color changes on the tray. Let's draw the teapot behind. First, draw the top of the teapot with the selection. Then draw the body in the same way. Because the teapot is made by a silver metal, it has a strong reflective ability and does not have much intrinsic color. Therefore, when painted, use the color from the environment around the teapot. Draw the spout and draw a reflection along the structure of the spout. And the handle. First, draw the shape with a solid color. Then open the Layer Lock Transparent option. The Short key is the slash key, left to the Shift key, or you can press here on the Layer panel. This can help us to reserve the shape of the handle. Draw some details on the handle. Use the curve tool to enhance the contrast. Usually, metal will have more contrast than other materials. Draw the highlights and reflections on the top. Then blend the colors. Add more reflection from the background. Add some circle lines, make the top more detailed. Refine the edges. Make them more clearly. Add more reflection colors. Add some details on the junction. Refine the spout. The key to paint a metal material is the reflection, especially the highlight part. Add more dark reflection. And clean the edges. Enhance the shadow. Adjust the curve layer a little. Draw the reflection of the window. Add some red color on the teapot as the oxidation of metals. Adjust the curve layer again to make the teapot a little brighter. After that, use a new layer to paint out the cell phone with Selection tool. The cell phone is shut down, so the screen is like a black mirror. Draw the notch. And draw the side face, use the same selection. Adjust the perspective a little. Refine the pistachio. Now let's paint out the green napkin under the cell phone. Make some bigger wrinkles to break the shape of the table. Adjust the layer sequence to make sure the napkin is under the cell phone. When the big wrinkles trends are decided, make the color transition and smaller details. Then wipe the sketches in the under layers. Clean the edges. Open the background light layer and carefully draw the light on the napkin. Add some more details and transition of the light. Continue to clean the edges. And don't forget the shadows. Use selection to paint the tree on the right corner in the same way as we did before. And a plate on it. This area is far from the visual focus, so we don't need to paint so much details here. Paint out the little props in the middle of the table. I've drawn a dessert tower here in the line sketch before, but as we will do some blur effect, so I decided to paint something simpler instead. There are two jars made by metal too. So as we did to the teapot, carefully draw the body and the reflection between them. Add a cover on one of them. Paint the inside part of another one. Refine the edges. Add more reflection. Then add a handle on the left one. In the jar there will be some little wooden stir bars. And maybe some sugar or something in another one. A bigger wooden tube is beside the jars. Paint out the body color. Add some decorations on it. Paint the bottom edges and the inside face with oval selection. There are some spoons in it, made by wood too. Then paint out the shadows of the props we just created. Refine the edges of the gap on the table. Until now, the material of the table looks a little boring. So let's add some glossy effect on it. Create a new layer to paint the reflection. The reflection on wood is not like we did before on the metal. The surface of the table is very glossy, so the reflection will have more clear edges, but with low contrast. So use some low transparency brush is better. Use the texture brush to draw some vertical shapes as a reflection of the background. Use a new multiply layer to enhance the reflection. Pay attention when painting this. Because of the Fresnel phenomenon, the part near us will have less reflection. Close the blur layer we did before. Let's move to paint the background. First, deal with the table and the chair in the left. The whole background will be blurred, so don't need to paint super detailed. Paint out the table in the background. There is a microwave machine on the table. Paint out the overall shape first, then the black window and some buttons on the right panel. Add some reflection on the black window. And the top face. Add some reflection too. Then the shadows on the wall. It looks a little fat, let's shrink it. Then draw the other props on the table simply. There are several cans. Some are made by metal, some by ceramics, some by wood. Behind the ceramic can, there is a wooden board. Above the board, there is a shelf. Have some plants on it. Before we paint the details, let's clean up the wall. Add some details on the painting. Add some plants. And there are some note papers and photograph pinned on the board. Draw these little things casually. Make the color and shapes interesting. Add some green colors to the plants. Add more shapes. Add some shadows to enhance the sense of space. Continue clean the wall. Wipe the noisy lines. Create the shape of window. Add some reflection to the shelf. Paint out the stroke color out the window. There should be some trees which can give us some bright bouquet. On the windowsill, there is a bud of plants. Paint out the highlight of the curtain. Clean the area under the table. Draw some pillar that can increase the amount of details in this area. Refine the shape of the table and the chair behind the girl. Add some reflections to enrich material complexity. Add some reflections on the table too. Paint out some highlights of the windowsill. Return to the background light layer. Refine the light shape carefully. Erase unnecessary light. Strengthen the volume of the little props by the left light. And the light on the table and the napkin. Add some light on the behind table. Enrich the background. Next, let us deal with the depth of field. We can simulate the effect of a camera with a large aperture, which can greatly increase the space of the picture. Firstly, use the selection tool, separate the background out the window. Then organize the layer by distance. Group the layers into three kinds: the foreground, middle, and background. And use the Field Blur filter. You can find it in the Filter menu, Blur Gallery, Field Blur. Use this tool with different strength to different layers. First, deal with the out window view, which is furthest to us, so we give them a 20px blur. When use the blur filter, the edges of the layer will be blurred too, so we need to expand the layer edges a little. Draw some colors on the blocked parts. Then use it again with 20px blur. When we use the blur filter, we can convert the layer to a smart object. This can allow us to modify it after blurred. Next, the background part. We give them a 15px blur. Then we need to collapse the light, adjust the layer to each normal layer. Duplicate it several times and change the layer order, then merge them one by one. Next is the middle part. The props behind the character, give them 6px blur. And break the table layer to two parts. The further one, give it a 6px blur too. The other part, we use another blur filter named Tilt Shift. With this mode, we can create a gradual blur. The closer the object from us, the more it blurred, which is very convenient when we deal with the foreground. Do the same thing to the props in front of the character. Let's modify the character layer again. Add more colors on the face with the multiply layer. And more red color around the eyes, lips, and the palm. Then merge all the character layers. Create a curve layer, adjust the contrast slightly. This time, we use the red and blue channel to add more warm and cold contrast. Make the light color colder and make the dark part warmer. Then create a curve layer again, modify the curve as a S shape in the 3 channels, like this, which can give us a color like a film photo. Adjust the face one more time, fix some small details. Strengthen the face color changes. Add the shadows of the glasses. Make more color transitions. Add more red color at the lips. Refine the ear. Give it more completion. Add some hair around here. Darken the shadows. And use the liquify filter one last time. Add some details on the hair. As you see, my process of painting will be over and over again. The process can continue endlessly. The time I decide to stop is depend on the usage of the picture and the resolution when I output it. Until to this stage, I think I have finished this illustration. Hope you like this and hope this tutorial can help you.